What is going on?
My computer keeps switching. Okay, I'm just gonna have to go off of this. I can't use this. Okay, for some reason, I don't know. I'm just gonna close out the
I think you are on the other microphone.
because you can't really hear me right now.
Right.
Yeah, I am. Okay, I'm just back to this
Oh,
video.
there we go.
Yeah, now you're back. Now you're back. All right, so I'll just start and then we'll see how when it starts in so that our editor guy sees, and then I will just introduce. So we just kind of go like this so that he knows, hey, we're actually starting, but hey there, everybody. Thank you for hopping on with us today. I am joined with amazing Miss Laura today and Miss Joy Packard. So welcome, ladies. We are very excited to have this discussion today. And I'm going to actually intro, y'all know fabulous Miss Laura here, but many of you that are hopping on, I'm sure, do know Joy, but if you do not, Joy is basically an ecom powerhouse. That is the first title that I was introduced to her as. So we'll start there, but she's so much more than that now that I've had the opportunity to meet with her. And so I met her at an e-commerce event about a little over a year ago now. And I was just totally wowed by just everything that she does. She feeds into the community in e-commerce. She hosts an event. She does retreats, podcasts. One of the kindest, most giving, sharing, women that I've met in e-commerce, and it's just been my pleasure to get to know her over this past year. And Joy, I'd like for you to give a little bit of your background and a little bit more about yourself to our listeners, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having me. I always love, that's one of the things that I love is I just have a passion to share. And so I always love to tell people, because I think that this takes out all the excuses of people saying I can't do things, is I'm a mom of 8. I always love that, to say that. I'm a grandma to 10, and then I have 2 more grandbabies that are due in November. So we'll have 12 by the end of the year. And my family is my world. I mean, everything I do is for them and to be able to be with them. And so all my years, I've always tried to find things like this is how I found, Amazon, is I've always done online stuff. How to make money online, because the 9-to-5 stuff for me was really super hard, because I was 13 when I was running my parents' doctor office, and I was, the person paying the bills, and I was the front desk lady. I did 3 positions one time when I was 13 years old. And I remember working, at 7 a.m. all the way till 6 o'clock in the summer between, high school and stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I don't mind learning this stuff and helping my parents, but this is not the life that I want for myself, to work for someone else. And so when I got married when I was 18, and put my husband through medical school and raised babies along the way, and had side businesses all from then until now. And it's just, you name any network marketing company, I've probably done it. Anything that, any door-to-door sales, I've done it. Sold telephones with my husband when we first got married, door-to-door Sprint sales. And ever since, like I say, I had my first baby, I'm like, okay, I need to find something that I can do from home. And that's when I started my search. And then, I started with online marketing as far as affiliate marketing, how to learn how to create my own website, and then found e-commerce. And I haven't turned back since. I've been doing e-commerce for 6 years now. And along the way, I found other passions that I want to do. But truly, I want to get my e-commerce business on autopilot and focus on retreats coupled with humanitarianism. I talked to somebody the other day about a homeless shelter thing that she was doing in her project, and I'm getting involved with that. And it's just incredible, how everything, when you put it out there in the universe and you say, this is what I want to do, somehow the right people come into your life. And so we have, out of the 8 kids, we only have 1 more left after, my daughter leaves in a few months. And then after 2 years, when he's done, my husband and I are going to become digital nomads and just travel and do medical missions, retreats wherever I'm at, and do humanitarian work. And that's kind of like our goals that we've been, working towards. So that's kind of like what I've been kind of working on over the last few years toward.
Yeah. That's incredible. I love that progression, and obviously everybody being able to see how that started again at a very young age of you realizing that you wanted to design, live your life by design basically, and it doesn't happen overnight. But if that's a priority, like you said, I mean, everything within that's the most priority to you is your family, and that shows it through everything. And even when I had the opportunity to speak at your event, Simples on Cellar, which was amazing, the people that you were able to bring together and the people that I still connect with from that, it was awesome. But just seeing your family, being a part of that, and obviously that support, and you just how truly to the core important they are to you. So I love that you always keep them, as the core, and then everything else. Yes, you have, ambitions and goals and everything surrounding that, but we've had the opportunity to talk a good amount about, what's next, what are we going to do, what are we going to work on, and then bringing it back to, well, we're going to work on what we're going to work on after we make sure that, our family and everything is the main part. So I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Joy, over your story is so amazing to me. And it's such an inspiration because, you know, not only are you like major mother hustler over here doing all these amazing things online, but you're being a genuine mother, which is like always something that I'm striving to be as a mother to 3 little ones. And you've got 8. So you've got like, I'm like, whoa, wow. Okay. So if it, over the years, we always love to bring out, like, there's so many podcasts out there that are like, do this to have success. Here's the tools, resources, whatever. But like the reality is that life gets messy, and sometimes there's these hot messes that we have to go through. So do you want to share with our audience maybe some of the hot messes you've experienced over the years as being a mom to 8 and a wife and all these amazing things that you've done?
Oh my goodness. I'm sure I could write a whole set of encyclopedia of hot messes. And, I think about, over literally, how long has it been? My oldest is 31. So I've been raising kids for 31 years. And I look back at my life, and, we were chatting a little earlier, Laura, about how now when people look at me, like, they're like, wow, she has it all together. Her kids are so perfect in church. And my kids are 16 and 18. But, it's like when my kids were little in church, and just in general, like my daily life was, in fact, the other day I was wearing some Nike pants and my hair in a ponytail. And one of my kids said, there's my mama. That's who I remember, because it's like, now it's like, I actually have time to fix my hair and to choose an outfit, but literally for like, 15, 20 years of raising my kids, it was like, I was lucky to even, be able to wash my face, because it was waking up, nursing babies, bringing them to the grocery store. Now we have, Walmart delivery and HEB and all this. So life is so much better with all of that, but it was hard. I mean, there was, struggles of, I remember, when my husband was in medical school, we took over the copy service, which is basically copying the notes for all of the medical students. We somehow got the contract, and here I was with 2 babies, and I think that they were like 3 and 1. I don't even know. But I remember it was miserable. It was so, we rented another apartment, put a big old copy machine in there. And I remember we wanted to save money and not turn the AC on. It was in San Antonio, actually. And I brought my babies in there, and here I am copying notes, for all these people. And I remember, like, the machine was messing up. It was stapling in the wrong place. And I just remember that very day, I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. There were days where I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to be a mom, how to be myself, and how to earn money so that we don't, my husband's in school, I'm trying to support him. And I remember that day I was sweating. My kids were throwing beach balls all over the place and just crying and hungry. It was miserable. And that was something that, again, like, I've got to find something different. We can't do physical, like, labor raising my kids. And that was kind of like I say, the beginning of the online marketing and stuff. And, another one that sticks out to me, we moved into, I don't even know if I mention this to you guys, but we moved to a small town. My husband accepted a job as an emergency room doctor in this town of 1,000 people. No people, no other wives will move there because it's just this country. And I don't mind country, but it was just so small. There's nothing, you know. And anyway, we accepted it. And I remember there's no house that's going to fit 8 kids. And so we lived in someone's camp house for a while, but then we got a double wide trailer and we put 4 of our kids, 4 of the boys with 2 bunk beds in one room, which was a super small room, 4 of the girls with 2 bunk beds in the other room. And at the time, the little baby would sleep in my closet, which sounds terrible, but the closet was actually big. But I'm just saying, what the hospital, they didn't pay us the things that they were going to pay us. And I remember one day that I vividly remember the office manager coming over to my house in tears and saying, "Joy, there is no more money. There is no money." And and I remember thinking, well, we have a credit card, to live on, because we were living on credit cards, trying to make this opportunity work. And because, they just reneged on their deal basically. And we were trying to, fix it. And I remember we had $6.40 in our bank account. And and normally my kids would go visit their cousins in Vidor, which was a couple hour drive or an hour drive on the weekends. And I remember specifically telling my children that day, and I said, here is some money for a gallon of milk, which was about $2.50. I need you to go get a gallon of milk. I need you to come home, and nobody gets to go and see their cousins this weekend. And it's emotional. Sorry. It's just, I remember, how hard that is to tell your kids that. And I remember thinking, I don't know what we're going to do. Here we are, like no money coming in, and, all these children that are surrounding me, and I have to feed them, and I had to tell them, this is all we're going to do this weekend. And I remember thinking at that moment, I know something's going to happen to fix this. And of course, that's another story for another day, but it did work out to where all of the stuff worked out. But I remember, that trial in my life of moving to this small town of people who didn't understand big families. My daughter took over being prom queen from somebody. My son took over the wide receiver position, and people just didn't like us because we took over everything. I couldn't help it that my kids were talented, smart, and overtook, stuff like that. But I mean, to be a mom, a mom with like all of that pressure, and I was actually helping my husband in his clinic to do the billing to get money to collect. I said, let me take this over, because I was a medical biller for my father, who was a surgeon, and I learned medical billing. And I don't know. So I go back to that time of my life, but I know how it feels to not have anything and to live like in a small trailer, like with all his children, and not knowing what the next move was going to be. So I don't know how many hot messes you needed, but boy, that was a big hot mess for me.
No,
That's such a reality though, because finances, if you look at finances for anything, what ruins marriages is finances, and people struggle with finances, and there's tons of courses out there about finances. And it's just, sometimes there's unforeseen circumstances, right? And then the economy is a roller coaster and stuff like that. So I think it's so important. Is there any tips that you have that you've learned now throughout the years about finances that you'd love for our listeners to hear?
Oh, I think that what has helped me over the years also is, well, number one, there has to be either both of you to get, if you're married, and if you're not married, you can still do this as a single person or whatever. Because I pretty much run our family as far as the finances, but I'm real particular about seeing, where the money's coming. I think it's almost like an Amazon business, like knowing your inventory. A lot of times people have all these credit cards, and then they think, I have all this money. And then before you know it, you've got all this debt and you're kind of like, well, how did this happen? I don't know, I just racked up $10,000 somehow or whatever. And so I think it's really important to know your numbers. And, we say this in our e-commerce business all the time. You can run as fast as you can all day long. And that's what my husband's really good at starting businesses, but he's terrible at the paperwork stuff. And so I'm just like, let me take over and let me handle it. And so over the years, it's just been so much better to also learn how to say no to certain, and I talked to Man about this a little bit, but like, we have so many opportunities coming our way every single day. This person wants to offer my husband a job, and, as far as this clinic goes, but you have to look deep and not just look at the surface stuff and say, yeah, that looks good, and then go into it and just dive head first. Now it's kind of like we look at we take a step back, we pause, we talk it over and we look it over and we say, okay, here's what here's what's coming in, here's expenses to raise our family, here's cushion and everything like that. One of the things I've done over the years is set up a separate account. And every year, my husband doesn't even know this. So if he's listening to this,
we'll keep it a secret.
Yeah, all right.
We won't put it on the radar for him.
No, he doesn't care. But I mean, I do. I have separate things that I put to where every month or every week, actually, I have things that I put money in there. And so, over the years, it's almost like a good example of this is like, I know this is like travel, but I'm kind of relating it to that, but I'm in this cruise club where you put in $100 a month and then they give you $200 in cruise dollars. And I completely forgot about that. And here it is 2 years later, I have $5,000 in cruise credits. I'm like, woo, I get to go on this cruise and I forgot about it. Well, same concept. It's like, you have to put something away. They say, put something away for a rainy day. It's really true, because you don't want to get yourself stuck in a situation where you're like, what am I going to do? At least you have some sort of recourse to go to, especially raising a big family. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we put 6 kids through, college and everything. And I mean, and it's not cheap, and just raising, 4 boys that eat, that eat so much food. So you have to, you can't just, and I think that's kind of like when we first got married, we weren't very good with our money, as far as like, we just kind of spent it and knew that it was going to be there. And then it's not really, that's what got us in trouble, but I know that can get people in trouble. Our problem was that the business that we, offered us a position didn't fulfill their financial obligations to us twice. Because there was another time that happened as well, where for 4 months we worked for a hospital that went bankrupt. And, we were in the same situation. So we've had so many ups and downs, and we've been on both spectrums. And I think it's super important to set yourself up. It's kind of boring and not fun to do, right? But it has to be done. You have to know your numbers. And I think that that's an important phrase, in Amazon and in life and in your financial business, or your part that you're trying to do is to know your numbers. Because if you don't, it can just creep up on you and get you in trouble. So
yeah, one of the things, so years back, and this was really difficult. John and I actually I think it was right before, it was a little bit before we were married, I think. And we attended Financial Peace University. And it was because, so John and I both came from the mortgage industry. So we are very, I mean, in there, like I was talking to you, Joy, about like the whole credit card thing. Like, we're very familiar with being able, okay, what do we need to do to keep our credit good? What do we need to do to get approved for credit? Like, all of this is like, we really understand all of that. And then, but we both came into the, relationship with a lot of debt because of that. It was during the boom, you were getting, 0% credit cards all over the place. And so, we did that. And then it was really difficult when we had a business that we weren't getting paid salary. We weren't. And so it was like, okay, well, I don't even know how to do this because, our expenses are not set at all, not even close, because depending on how much inventory we're buying, we're not saying no to inventory, because at that point we were doing books, any inventory that we purchased would turn a profit. So it was just selecting that inventory. So we were like, okay, sometimes months we spent a lot more, sometimes we spent less, and we were kind of just getting started. So there's that on top of, like I said, the income wasn't very stable because this is the first few years of us doing the business as well. So going through that and figuring that out, that really helped. And if people are using it to where they don't have, something stable, is like, basically you have to budget based on the lowest amount that you're bringing in. So we had to look and say, okay, what's the lowest month that we had? We need to set our expenses in our life based on that. And it was not easy, but it helped us so much when we did that. And then by the time we were practiced to be living at that level, and everything else above, we really did everything else above, was able to go and pay off everything. And so we were, for a few years, we were living well below our means before we had invested in our new home and before we did the private label and all that kind of stuff. And not say that we're perfect, because even after that, we had bought a big home, and then there's different expenses, different changes in businesses and stuff. But I'm really thankful that we had that to practice, because anytime we need to, we go back to that. And similarly to the same thing you were talking about, putting money aside in different ways. There is an account. I do this kind of the same thing with our finances. And I shift money from one account to another that covers all 100% of all of our expenses that are monthly. So I know and it's according to actually Amazon's payout, I do it twice, every 2 weeks. So on that Friday, I take and I swipe, this amount goes into, and I don't even think about it, which is nice because then I get to focus on other things.
Right.
So that gets switched over there, and that's helped a lot. And I think it's always, when there's transitions and stuff, you always have to continue to readjust. And I don't think you ever get it, totally on lockdown, but, I love those points that you were saying, because I think that putting away a little bit, like you said, not even like thinking about it. That's what I'd like to do too, is put that in a separate account. So we're not even just, it's just something that I don't even think about.
Right.
Joy, can I ask one more question about the financial stuff? Because I love this, and you're a mom of 8, and I'm all about the mom stuff. But how have you passed this on to your children? Did you do this as they were growing up? Anything about them saving or starting their own bank accounts or anything like that with your kids?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when they get to a specific age at the bank, when they can get a teen checking account, which is usually about 13, you can set up a bank account and to get their own, debit card or whatever, to start teaching them how, when they work, this is how you can get paid, and then start teaching them those kind of things, like most of my kids, I think of all my kids, and the first, let's see, Janelle, Brandon, Shireen, Preston. Oh my goodness. Every single one of my kids are entrepreneurs as far as owning their own business. The first 6 kids that are married, they have either their own cosmetology or, they own their own clinics. Anyway, so they're really good, way better, even better than I ever was, like when I first got married. I don't know. I'm not saying that's because of anything I did. I just think I have some amazing kids that kind of just take it. They're really good with their money, but I think it's super important. When they're even little, we teach them even, I think of the piggy bank that we had. It was like 3 different slots. And one of them was savings. One of them was spending, and then the other one was tithing. And so every time they earned money, they would learn that 10% of their money would go to the Lord. And then here's, maybe 10% would go to savings. And then as long as they got their savings, their spendings, if they wanted to spend their money, they're tithing, their savings, if they wanted to spend their money on something that, I always told them, as long as it's not vulgar or bad or anything like that, like if you want to go spend, $20 on buying a Pokemon card, and that's what you want and you earned it, then that's okay. That's your thing. But that you have to realize, when you spend that 20, then you're not going to have, you're spending, you know what I mean? We talk about money like that, but we would try and teach them kind of the same kind of concept, even when they were little, about the importance of, I think, not everybody may do that, but we believe that when you pay your money first to God, and then you pay yourself, it's like all these other things just start kind of falling into place. That's kind of the way that my life has always been. But I think it's super important to start teaching them about, even how to write a check. I know that pretty soon when our kids are older, there's probably no checks that you have to write anymore. But like those simple things, like when my kids turn 18, like even this 18-year-old, I probably failed with her as far as teaching how to write a check, probably because we don't write checks very much anymore. But she's like, Mom, I don't know how to write a check. But she knows, all about debit, and she knows about, certain savings and things like that, of how kind of teaching them, about money. We use a lot of stories and symbolism and things like that, because I think that helps little kids, even from a very young age. Even my grandkids, like I've kind of, when I have them and I'm watching them, and when they carry my groceries in, I'll give them, some money, like a quarter or something, and I'll teach them, what this means. Because, if you start teaching them like about that, then even if I think as moms too, we feel like what we teach them, even if it's like a 10-second lesson, that's not going to stick with them. But honestly, as I've seen my kids go from birth until 31 years old, some of them say, Mom, do you remember when? And then they'll like tell me this incident. I'm just like, really? Like, I didn't even think that they were listening. Mm-hmm. So believe it or not, they watch what you do, as far as like even the way that you handle your finances. the way that, you know, you handle your conversations as far as like, I think my kids are all like me as far as like, I don't think anybody's going to ever rip them off because they see how it is. Like if people rip me off, and like, I'm a really nice person, but like if you mess with my kids or you try and rip me off, I'm really good at like being able to, you know, say, hey, you know, this is what you charge and whatever. They've kind of learned those ways. And I think it's by example, because they watch you, they watch what you say and they watch what you do. And then and coupled with what you're going to teach them. Like I say, your kids are young, 2, 4, 6. And, you know, this is a perfect, they say, what is it? And the children's psychology stuff, they say, you know, before they're 7 or 8 years old, this is a great time where they are forming the formation years. Just so, you know, it's never too early, in my opinion, to teach them about money. You know, even like I say, my 2-year-old grandson that I had the other day, you know, he's learning those little things and stuff. So yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so important because I know that Kenzie will walk in and she'll be like, oh, well, I want, you know, whatever. We're at the house and she wants something to eat or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, we're all out of that. She's like, well, just go buy some. And I'm like, oh girl, we're going to work on this. Yeah, I know that you have to go buy some, but we definitely need to work on all of that. And I can remember when I was, one of the cool things that my mom had done when I was younger, kind of the same thing. Like if I earned my money, I could basically spend it any way that I wanted. But when we would go back to school, there would be very low, she was a single mom, so there was relatively low allowance for us to be able to get school clothes. But she would say this is the dollar amount. So I would actually go, because when you're in 6th, 7th grade, you want all the name brand stuff. So for about 2 years of my entire life, I wanted Lucky brand jeans. So I got a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and that was all legit, all I had. And she was just like, okay, you can have that, but you get nothing else. You either would also, and if you grow out of it, you need to get something else. Then it quickly, within that 2 year, I remember that's when I just loved thrift stores. I was like, oh my gosh, clearance racks and thrifts. Like I was the biggest bargain shopper ever. And that's how my kind of journey with Amazon even started, just recognizing that, hey, I can get this way cheaper than what they're selling it for. So, you know, so I think that's that kind of, being able to know what the market is and then finding like really good deals. I really think that gave me the foundation for, you know, when I started, especially in retail arbitrage and online arbitrage.
Yeah, you know, as you say that, it came up to my mind too. Like when I first started Amazon 6 years ago, my son is 16 now, and there's many videos of him. He actually helped me, you know, to do the sourcing, and he knew the brands and stuff. And so he learned how to do a spreadsheet. And he saw, okay, mom's paying me, this is how many hours that I worked. Mom's paying me $5 an hour. Hey, that's a lot of money for, you know, 10-year-old. And then this is how much she paid me. And so he saw his progression, and it excited him, you know, his balance. It was like, and it was a simple spreadsheet, you know, it was like amount of hours worked, amount of hours paid, amount of hours, you know, total. And he saw this growing spreadsheet, and it was neat to see because it encouraged him. It made him want to work. He's like, you know, I'm trying to earn money for this. And then the second thing I would say too is, you know, my kids, they see me and I mean, it doesn't matter in my opinion, like how much money you make, but they see me in Ross, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Goodwill, and even Poshmark and stuff. And like, you know, like I still like, I have a really hard time, like, you know, even like, I know now we have more money, of course, because, you know, we've been married for 30 something years. But I'm saying like, I never like have forgotten like where I came from, and I don't mind. I love going to Goodwill. I go there when I need like a solid green shirt for something. I mean, you don't see that like in Target, you know, but I'm just saying like, even they know how they love that, you know, and I think that instilling that in them as well, like you can get, you know, really nice brands that you would see at Nordstrom sometimes at, you know, at Marshalls, you know, maybe it was like a $50 shirt and now it's 20. I remember taking my sons one time. He's like, Mom, I really need to go get some shorts for football. And I remember one of them telling me that, and he goes, but I think only we can find it at Academy. And I'm like, no, we're not going to go to Academy and pay $40 for a pair of shorts, but I'll take you to Nordstrom Rack. And they have them for about 18, 19 bucks. And he goes, okay. But I could totally tell the doubt in his look, you know, and then he went there and he's like, oh my goodness. And it just opened his eyes up, you know, like it was brand new stuff for half the price. and he found his Nike shorts and he was super happy. And he was able to, spend his money and pay 60 for 3 shorts instead of, 40 for 1 pair of shorts. And it just, ever since, like, teaching them that as well, like bringing them to garage sales and we also like to do flea marketing. And they think it's the coolest thing because it's like Mexico. I'm like, it's like Mexico, kids. And they get to go and they teach them how to bargain. And my kids, when they go to Mexico, my son the other day came home with, of course they're fake Ray-Bans, but he talked them down from $20 to $5. And I'm like, huh, good job, son, So it's like, the value of money is not just like in earning it, but it's also teaching them on how to save and how to, you be able to, buy at bargain places that you can still buy nice things, and you don't have to go to the mall. You can go over here and get those kind of things. So super important to teach them that as well.
It's kind of like flipping it too. Like we do garage sales, and Zizi's like bringing up one Barbie at a time to put on the rummage sale. She's like, well, I want to sell this because she wants to make her money, right? And then she has her little lemonade stand, and then she knows, like I started kind of the same thing, like the tithing and the saving and the spending, and she's so cute like that though. And then she'll be like, well, how much is it? How much of my money is it going to take? And I'm like, all of it. And she's like, oh, no, I don't want it. I'm just kidding. Like, if it's going to take all my dollars, I'm just kidding. I don't want that no more. It's like so different when it's their money versus mom's money. I'm like,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, like this costs money, girlfriend. Like you can't just take it away, everything,
Yeah.
So it's so cool when it's theirs and they have ownership in the money, and then they value it so much more when it's time to spend it as well, which is really cool. So
absolutely. Yeah. I've seen that with my kids, even just like with my 18-year-old daughter. The other day, she was working for 7 hours and she makes, $12 an hour or whatever. And she goes, I am so tired, Mom. And do you realize it took me 7 hours to earn like an expensive pair of jeans? That is not worth it. I'm going to go to Marshall's and, whatever. So it's just kind of neat for them to see, that you have to, first you learn how to work hard, and then you also teach them to work smart as well. And some of my kids that are older, that are the entrepreneurs, they're pretty smart kids. I'm impressed with them. I mean, when I talk to them, I'm just like, who are you? It's like amazing. So
they're so awesome. They're such sponges.
Yeah, you gave them an awesome foundation. I love that you're so humble. You don't take credit, but gosh, we know it's all because of the mama. But one of the things that I think that you have an awesome insight to and could really share with our audience is how during that time you've been married for over 30 years, and I see how your relationship with you and your husband, you've been through a lot. You've had 8 different children. That's constant change, all that kind of stuff. How, even through those times of stress and despair and not knowing what to do, and like Laura said, a lot of times, financial issues are the number one cause to be able to, rip families apart and things like that. How did you guys keep it together? What do you guys do? What do you practice? What can you share with our audience to help with that kind of stuff?
Wow, that's a loaded question, but yeah, it's and first of all, again, like I always call it the Sunday smiles, because like, you see this awesome family and they got their beautiful kids all dressed so nicely. They're so perfect and blah, blah, blah. And I always tell everybody, I'm like, you should have seen us like 30 minutes before we got here. I mean, I was screaming at them and like, where are your shoes? And, my husband couldn't find his tie, and he just decided to iron his shirt 5 minutes before we had to go. But as I look back at everything, it's like, and it's true, like, everybody has their ups and downs. I don't care who you are, how perfect your relationship is. There's going to be trials and tribulations. And when you have some, putting a husband through medical school, I think the statistics of divorce going through medical school is super high. And it's just because there's so much stress, they're gone. It's like I was basically raising my kids by myself. I remember like my 3rd child would go to sleep when he would leave before she would wake up in the morning, and then he would come home when she was already asleep. So whenever she ever saw him, it made him feel so bad because she got scared. She's like, who is that? She didn't even know who her daddy was, And so like, as I look back through the years, one of the things that we always try and do, and we're not perfect at, is we try and schedule at least one day, one night a week where we have date night, and it's uninterrupted time, and we try and put our phones away, which sometimes, like when we had our little kids, we had to, keep it, but we try and like not talk about like stress. Like, okay, we're going on a date, but all we could talk about is, oh, today this happened with this kid and da 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 da. And we just try and talk about each other. I think it's super important. Like, whenever you, as having big families, and I'm sure people who have many kids know what I'm talking about, it's really easy to get lost in the shuffle with your kids. Like, you're so busy with football and ballet and all this kind of stuff that soon your husband, who, this is how it all started, you start losing touch with each other. And so one of the things that, like I say, that we try and do is we try and focus on each other like that. And like, even like, we'll try and now, we're able to, our kids are older. And so we're able to take more trips together. So we, we go to Mazatlan, we call it magical Mazatlan, because when we go, it's just like we fall in love all over again. Right. And believe me, I know we always look in love, but we're not always like that. We're like, we do have our stress. And, it's like, he has his businesses, I have mine, he has his opinions, I have mine. Even just raising our kids, like on discipline methods, like, I don't agree with that, and I remember how hard it was on our first baby. I'm like, well, I don't agree with that. And so one of the things we try and do is we try, and it's, of course, it's not perfect, but we try to not raise our voices when we're talking. If we're angry, we try and like pull away, pause, or we'll say something like, I'm going to like leave for a minute and like let you stay there for a moment. Now, of course, it's not like that all the time, but I'm saying that's what we strive for. And, the date night. And then the other thing that he's so good at is like, he puts me first before anything. Like, if you ever hear him talking to his colleagues and I call, he'll say, I'm sorry, this is my wife. I have, let me just take this call. And so like, I'm first in his life, and, he's mine, of course, God before both. But I'm just saying, I think it's also important. Like, we try, and it's super hard. We try and have at least one meal together with our family. Like, I don't care if you're in football and you're in this, we're having dinner at a specific time, and we would sit down together. And there's something about that family bonding, to where we can kind of come together and be with each other and hear each other's days and stuff, And I think that has helped throughout the years to keep us together as a family, and even though like it was super hard, like I say, in there are days when people were like, oh, I don't want to do this, because that's where we would do the scripture reading as well. We'd have dinner, do our scripture reading together before the kids all had to go their own ways. And so I think that's super important, trying to keep your family together, I think I think that with my husband and I, though, we're super lucky because we're each other's best friends, right? I think I see that a lot. And I think that's important too, is yes, you're a couple, but more importantly too, is like, you have to be friends. Like, you have to, do fun things together. And he's so good at that. Like, I drag him to concerts that I'm sure he doesn't want to go to. I make him come disco dancing and he doesn't want to. And that's the other thing too, is like, if you just take yourself out of it all the time to where it's like me, this is what I want to do. When we do date nights, he's always like, well, what do you want to do tonight? And I'm always kind of like, oh, let's, he would even do Amazon shopping with me on our date nights because he supported me, and every now and then I said, well, what do you want to do tonight? And even though like, I didn't really want to do what he wanted to do, I would do it anyway. And I think that he appreciated. I remember one night he's like, thanks for asking me what I wanted to do, because like, I think that's the key of this whole thing, is like to be selfless. And that's what you have to strive for, even though it's like a daily struggle to be selfless, because, ultimately we're like we're always about ourselves, right? We're like, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? But I think as a couple, like, and as a family, our family unit, like, I look at my kids now and like, seriously, I tell my husband, I say this, we're like, if he and I ever, were taken from this earth at this point, they would take care of each other. And it's because, I think it's because, you help them to form that, like, they're each other's best friends, like I say. And I'm super proud, as you guys can tell, I'm super proud of my family, and they're not perfect kids, by the way, either, because, we all have our struggles. And I always like to say that because, a lot of people tell me that, like, you've got this perfect family, perfect business. And I'm the first to say that behind it all, there's struggle and there's failure and there's discussions and there's, times when you just want to quit. whether it's in your relationships and, even raising your kids. I remember like crawling in a closet sometimes. I'm just like, just give me some time. I just don't want to see any of you right now. And you have to just know that if things go down, it's going to eventually come up. And I think that as I look back over the years, we're closer now, I think, because in those formative years, like our marriage, it's kind of like we're still trying to figure each other out, and then now we've been married for so long, it's almost kind of like, in fact, I'll tell this and then I'll end with this subject, but he asked me the other day, I told him the other day, I'm like, honey, do you remember when I was like 20 something years old and you just wanted to watch this movie called Mr. Johnson? And it was like the boringest movie ever. But because you wanted our family to be together, you made me go in there and you used to make me do things because you wanted us to be together. And now it's like when I'm in Mexico and I'm like, I just don't want to go walking in Cancun. I want to sit by the beach. And he goes, okay, it's no problem. You get to do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, really? And it's kind of like he just told me, he's like, I feel so bad for like making you feel like you had to do all these things. You deserve to do what you want to do. If you want to take a nap, take a nap. And then he'll honor that. That's the word too, is like you have to honor each other, like, I don't know. He's such a sweet man.
I really think what happened is your children see all of this happening, right? You're honoring each other, you're respecting each other as husband and wife, which is why your children are so amazing. And you're like, I don't know why they're so amazing. They're just so amazing. Well, they're so amazing because they're doing the same thing to each other. They probably honor and respect each other. Not to say there's not mass chaos, because there is in every household, but like when they have that foundation of respect and two human beings, and especially parents, because it's so stressful anyways, respecting each other, and they see that in words like that, honor, respect. And it's like, if you need to take a nap, sweetie, take a nap. Like, that's just so, now you just made my dating list, like checklist, like so much longer.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, gosh, I now, like, today, anytime, like I just tell him like, I'm getting my lashes today. And he'll say, oh, I'm so happy. I'm, cause like my kids would be like, Mom, why would you spend that much on your lashes? I'm like, you know what? Whenever I was 20 years old, I didn't spend time on my lashes, and now,
Right.
like, I don't care if my lashes fall off, and I put extensions on all the time. But he's always like, oh, I'm so happy you got your lashes. It makes me so happy that you just do something for yourself. And he'll do that, and like, I think that that's so important too, is to give each other room. Like, if he wants to go and play his Warcraft game and there's dishes to be washed and all these things to be done, like before, like, and believe me, I still get upset about it, but before, my old self, I'm like, oh, there's so much to do. Why is he doing this? But I'm like, he works all the time to support our family. And then he lets me do what I want. I should let him do what he wants sometimes, So I think that's super important too, is like, we each have our different things that we like to do. I like to, relax on the beach, and he likes to go and walk the town, and before, like, he would say, well, I'll sit by you, or you come with me, and we have to. But I'm like, why don't you do that for a few hours, and I'll sit on the beach for a few hours, and then we'll get together for dinner, and we'll have dinner and go dancing. And we're like, okay, cool. And then we're both happy, because then he's doing what he likes and I'm doing what I like. And then we're together in the evening and we spend time together that way. And so there's no like push and pull so much to where you feel like, I have to do this to please her, I have to do this to please him,
And I think that's really cool, because you can tell, from when you're discussing all of the times that you guys have been together, that it has been an evolution. And I think that that's a big key as well. You guys have grown throughout that time in the different stages of life, and then continued to work on that, because it is work the entire time. It's not just like, okay, great, our relationship's great and this is how it's going to be. Like, you hit good parts, but then like you said, there's going to be ups and downs, and we're going to have to continue to learn and grow and evolve over that time, just because that's how people do. So and that's not easy when there's multiple people in there and 8 children, and then now 10 grandbabies and and jobs and clinics and all this stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay. I do want to get into a little bit of your professional stuff here. We're going to wrap up soon, but I definitely want to highlight that, because I was blown away at when you talk about everything that you have going on and your children, and being able to do e-commerce, and your secret to this, and it's not necessarily a secret because you divulge it to everybody, but your secret to this is because you are amazing at outsourcing. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. Cause I remember when you talked about like you figured that out within your business and then you're like, oh my gosh, I can do that. So
Oh man,
that-
absolutely. And that's one of my passions is the outsourcing subject. In fact, when I was asked to be a speaker at my first e-commerce event, it started with that. And like, that's what I was like, this is my niche. I didn't even realize like my daily living is like what I talk about. Like, and that year I spoke at like 10 events about outsourcing. And I remember it was about, oh, I would say a good 10 years ago when I started doing this online, 2009 or so. And I, started this online stuff. And I remember I was up at night until 3 a.m. and my husband would come out and say, what are you doing? I'm like, I have to get this website up. I'm trying to get this opt-in form on this website. And, I'm following the steps and da, 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 da. And I finally got it. And it literally took me like days and days and days. And then I got it done. But then I went to this event and somebody started talking, all this amazing stuff, how to do this and how to do your website. But then this guy got up there and started talking about replacing his topic was replace myself. And it really caught my attention. I'm like, okay, what is he talking about? So he went through this thing. And then I learned at that event that I could replace myself for literally dollars on in a day. And I was like, wow. And so I looked into that and basically, I used that with my online world, but coming into e-commerce, I started doing Amazon and I did all the stuff, I bought the stuff. Me and my best friend, started this business and we did retail ARP and we came home and we have these pictures of us entering it all in. I was like, I'm so tired. Surely there's got to be a better way because if we continue to keep doing this, this is as far as we're going to get in our sales. Something has got to go. And then I, realized, well, I was using outsourcing with my online stuff and why not bring it in here? And so not only did I began to outsource my packing and shipping to my daughter and her husband who started a prep and ship company. And literally as soon as that started, like within 2 weeks, my sales like went in, from the 15,000s in sales to like 30, it doubled in sales in 2 weeks just from hiring prep and shipping. Then I'm like, oh, well, let me like find someone to find the deals online. And so I found, I switched my outsourcing team in the Philippines, basically they're virtual assistants that you can basically pay anywhere between $200 and $500 a month for 40 hours a week of work. And it changed my life. And basically from learning that, oh my goodness, I don't have to pack and ship anymore. I can do the part that I love, which is shopping and finding the deals. Well, how about, I know I love this, but if I'm going to do anything else in my life, how about I outsource that too and hire other people to buy stuff? So then it just evolved into every time I let go of one part of my business, it just grew. And like that 1 year, I think was it 2015, whenever I began outsourcing my business is when we made our first 6 figures online. And I was like, this is incredible. I'm spending time with my kids. And literally I work on my business 2 to 4 hours a day because I want to, because it's exciting to me, but I don't have to. And so then, not just outsourcing like my, my e-commerce business, but even like one time I remember my son was like 11 years old and he was looking for this athletic jacket, a green and white one that said Austin on the back. And he wanted that for his birthday. I outsourced that to one of my virtual assistants. I'm like, I don't know, and she found it. And so there's just so many things that we can do. And I bet if we took the time, and I teach this, by the way, as far as to groups where you make a list of everything you do in a day, all the way from cooking to doing your laundry, to cleaning your house, to doing your business, to groceries, to whatever. And I did that and I do that still. And I revamp. I'm like, okay, groceries. I don't have to go into Walmart and HEB and spend 2 hours getting my groceries. I spend 10 minutes on my app and it shows up in my door in 2 hours, right? I don't have to cook my meals if I don't want to. I still kind of do sometimes, but DoorDash, or I have people that cook healthy meals for us. And, and it's liberated me to work on my business. So basically my quote, and, and a lot of people say it is basically, do what you do best and outsource the rest. And when you start like letting go, and I think that's the hardest part for people is letting go. Cause like, you're like, I'm the best prepper and shipper. I can put the tape on the boxes. I can enter it into, the computer the best. I fold my shirt the best. And, you know, I buy groceries. I know how to put them in that bag and bring them in. It's just, over the last 10 years of my life, I have learned to outsource a lot of things, even as a mother, like, you know, stuff to help me so I can spend time with my kids. Right. And like, even people like to be a driver. Like when my kids were not driving, I'm like, how am I loading up all these kids and going to take these people and go groceries? Can you see me like in Walmart with 6 of my kids behind me? Because that's kind of what I had to do. And so soon, you know, not just like I say, I do this in my business, but I do it in my whole life, and I implement it, and it's incredible. And it's just gives you the freedom to be able to do all the things that you want to do. And I mean, even little things like yesterday, I was listening to a training call on my Shopify course, and in the chat of the Zoom, they put, you know, the AliExpress link, and it was this big old link. But when I was listening to the recording, I wasn't able to copy it, you know? So I took a picture of it and I took all the links and I sent it to my VA. I was like, could you please like make this clickable so I can find it? Because you know what? It would have taken me 30 minutes, right? To probably type it in, find it. So you think about, you know, all of the things that you can pay someone. And by the way, when you pay the outsourcers in the Philippines, some people are like, oh, you're ripping them off at $250 a month. That is a good living in the Philippines. And you can look at it like, I am actually giving other people a better life, you know, because they're able to spend time with their kids now because they do online stuff for me. And they thank me, you know, like every Christmas. We're like, we're so I have somebody, 2 people who have been working with me for 7 years now, 8 years. Yeah. And they just stick with me because, you know, you treat them nicely. You let them have time off if they want to go to their son's play. But I'm just saying that I'm sure that you can think of it, and people who are going to listen to this, you can think of your business and write down every task that you have to do. Like like if you're talking about Amazon, finding products, listing them, doing PPC ads to them, you know, all of these different tasks. Which one of those can I let go and hire somebody so that I can do this, you know? I mean, even just the humanitarianism stuff that I'm doing, I have them researching out, you know, the homeless. I found this one, what is compound in Austin, Texas, called Loaves and Fishes, something like that. And it's everything that I want to do. They have this community where they're actually being able to help someone who's homeless and wants to change their life, and it basically puts them back, gets them back on their feet, and then teaches them. Like my goal is like, how about put them somewhere to get that stress off of them so that they can learn online marketing. And now they have a way to go, you know, because a lot of times with homeless people, I know some people are there because they choose to be there because of decisions and bad choices, but there are a lot of people who are there because something happened. Like, I mean, even one of my own kids was homeless for a while. And I guess that's why it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of near and dear to my heart. But like, how can I outsource that? I can get people to run it, help me find the organizations that can help me, you know? Yeah. And so it's super important if you ever want to excel, in my opinion, to let go, because all of us only have 24 hours in a day, and 8 of those hours we're sleeping, or we should be sleeping.
I think a lot. I was just saying, I think a lot with like moms when they're listening too, they're like, "Ooh, I would outsource all the things," like for sure. Like there's plenty of them, but I think too, for personally, like for myself, when I was going through this process, and I've been trying to like reframe my brain. There's a lot of things that I'm not necessarily thinking that, hey, I'm the best, I have to do this. But you know what? My barrier was 2 things, as we've already talked about, being fiscally conservative when it comes to that. So I'm gonna be like, okay, well, I'm paying somebody and I can do it. So there was kind of that mental shift, and I've been working through that. But I think the other thing was making sure that things are taking a step back instead of just doing, taking a step back and being able to actually have a process for things and being organized, because without that, you cannot outsource. It would be a waste. And so for me, because that's kind of how we had operated for so long, is like something needed to be done. We did it. Something we just, right. we never like took a step back. So I've been working really, and I probably annoy the crap out of Laura right now, because it's been 6 months that I've been working on this. It takes a long time, but I'm like, spreadsheet, Trello, like everything we're doing, spreadsheet, Trello, because I've learned some of this stuff from you. And then I have other friends that have the outsourcing stuff, and I'm like, everything has it. And it makes it so much easier, instead of always being like, okay, we did it. Then we're like, I'll have to backtrack and go and like look through everything. And we're still working through this on our business with the pet stuff as well. But I can see I use this now, different tactics and things like within our within, you know, our life. Like there's different ways. So I think that's probably why you're so good, because you were forced to have to be organized. Like you would just, I mean, when you have 8 children, you have got to be organized, right? I'm sure that's it's pretty crazy, but still you have, I think, that next level ability to be able to do that. And I think it's imperative. So with us learning that, then once you do have it organized, then you can see, oh, okay, I can pass that off, because it is, otherwise there's really nothing that we can actually pass off. So I appreciate being able to learn from you. And you've been so gracious on some of the times that I've, you know, sent you messages and you've shared on that as well. So I'm thankful that this is your specialty.
I want to add just one thing here, because I think as I'm thinking about our listeners and who are listening, and some people are like, I can't afford to do that, right? There are moms out there saying, I can't afford to do that. And I want them to think at another level, because there's some things that don't cost additional money. Like going on and shopping at Walmart and having them get all your groceries ready is going to save you tons of time. And it doesn't cost anything additional to do some of these type outsourcing things, where it's going to make their life easier and simplify things in their life. And really, like, I need to start doing that, because I know I'm going to spend a whole heck of a lot less money than if I go there, especially with my kids, because everyone needs to get a toy before we leave and everything else. But there are things like that where just becoming more organized, you know, shopping online, picking up your groceries. I mean, I even, when I was at Target and was doing stuff for my house and needed curtains and certain curtains, it was like, I didn't even know I could do that. So I shopped at Target, and then they brought it out to my car even. So then I just pulled up at like 5:05 p.m. was my pickup time, and I was in the little pickup slot. And then I checked in on the app and told them I was at Target, and they brought my Target stuff out, my curtains and my whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, because I have a baby, like a newborn baby in my car, and hauling a newborn baby in and all that stuff. It's just like crazy when you have 3 kids. And so I was like, or 8 kids, right? So you have to unload the entire bus to go into Target. So it's like, there's all these cool resources that it didn't cost me anything extra to have the people at Target do my shopping for me and to even deliver it out to my car. And I was like, I felt like I was totally winning. So there are resources and ways to do that.
Oh yeah, when Walmart pickup came into play, I was their favorite customer, because I would say every time I would pick up my groceries, like, you guys have changed my life. No, because it's like, it did. It's like I would order online, and this is when they didn't have delivery, and like you, I would show up, and then they would have everything ready. And, you know, same thing with Sam's and Costco. You can order online and they'd have it ready. You know, there's things like that that just make your life, especially as a mom. Like when I lived in North Texas, they had a place where you could actually do a drive-through and do like the basic bread, milk, eggs kind of thing. You just drive through. And I was like, oh, you know, to not have to bring all my kids out and stuff. And that saves me so much time. I don't know, those who know me, like, I think it's because I have such a big family. Like my time is so precious to me that any time that I can have, you know, back to myself because of something like that, like that grocery pickup thing. For Thanksgiving, we had not just our family, but one of my sons, his wife and their family were coming. And I remember I ordered all of the stuff right online. This is the first, when it first came out, I was like, I'm so excited because now I don't have to get the paper plates, you know, all that kind of stuff. Well, the next day I was like, I wonder where my order is. I don't see it on my app. Well, I didn't scroll down to hit submit. And so I had to go into Walmart and buy all, you know what? It took me literally 2 hours to get all the stuff. Then you have to put it, you know, unload it at home. And I remember thinking, by doing the app thing, like I said, I am so good at the grocery thing now. I literally can get my groceries ordered in 5 minutes or less, probably less, because I just know exactly what I need. And it shows, like, here we live, you know, in San Antonio, we're on the 5th floor in an elevator. And so I'm like, I am always going to order groceries. You know?
Have them delivered up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so Joy, you're gonna have to come back on again, because there's way too much I know to chat about with you here. But I want people to be able to, you know, there's a couple of things on here that you are actually offering first a 30-minute strategy coaching call, which is incredible. So like what is kind of like the within the strategy coaching call? Is it basically for pretty much anything? Suppose e-commerce, like I
Anything
know.
they want to talk about, because I do a lot of personal development. I kind of help people, there's such a range of things, because I think it's just stuff that I've learned over the years, and I love helping people, all the way from 6 or 7 years ago when my health isn't perfect, but when 6 or 7 years ago, it was terrible. And I mean, I just went on this journey of trying to help fix my health. And, there's so many biohacks and just stuff that I've done to help myself, all the way from that to getting organized to how to relax. Even, like being a mom, it's hard to relax, and I've kind of learned how terrible stress is for you, and worrying all the time, and when things aren't getting done. But I mean, I've had people get on the phone with me and they're just like, I just want to talk and tell you about like all of these things. And I kind of just listen to them and help them, maybe possibly help them get on track, whether it's financial, whether it's about their family, organizing, whatever. It could be anything they want it to be on, so yeah.
That's awesome. And then so we are, just so everybody knows, in order for you guys to jump on and do that, you're going to be able to go to hotmess2success.com/joy. And you're going to be able to see all of the different things we talked about, even with, for example, she was mentioning the VAs over in the Philippines. I know we had actually had some experience with that, and there's onlinejobs.ph. And there's going to be a lot of resources for you guys that we'll go through and put in for the show notes. And then we definitely do want to, and what I think is probably going to be best, Joy, is if we do bring our audience like maybe a Facebook Live or something, coming, because I know that you're also, and this is one of your big passion projects, is you're going to be doing retreats. And I know that is coming up, next year and next spring. So that information is going to be on there as well, but definitely dig in. Joy has a podcast. We're going to put it on there. You're going to have to connect with her on her Facebook page, because she'll come on live and she just pours into the people that are on there, just daily little tidbits. I mean, like I said, I know there's probably about 5 other hours of stuff or more, I'm sure, but that specifically I could ask you about, and that I've been able to just gain from you and listen from you. So thank you so much for putting content out there, number one, because I know that people love that, and I love that, and I love being able to, take that in and apply that stuff to my life as well. So anything else, Laura?
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I'm so excited. I've been taking notes the whole time myself too, down here, like, I got to take these notes, because there's so many things that I want to reflect back to and listen to this again. That's one of the great things about being a podcast interview, is we get to listen again and create show notes and all that great stuff. But hotmess2success.com/joy. And we'll make sure we have fantastic show notes ready for you guys with all of the links to connect with Joy, get your free 30-minute strategy session, learn about her awesome retreats, and all of her amazingness, because you've been such an absolute joy to have on the show. Yay.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Have
Bye.
a great day, everyone. Bye. And that's a wrap.
That's it. Great.
Turn it off. Cool. Well, thank you. But it's so funny, because this last tidbit, like usually we have time to like expand on stuff.